Welcome to the PJ Hoop Podcast. I'm your host, PJ, and if this is your very first time checking out my podcast, I want to let you guys know this is a basketball podcast. This is not just an NBA podcast. Predominantly, yes, I'm covering the NBA, but I also like to talk about college, international, and high school basketball. Now, before I get started on today's episode, I want to let you guys, and even remind you guys, that next week I will be doing a college March Madness special episode. You're not going to want to miss that, because in that episode, I will be talking about my bracket. I'll also be giving you guys 10 to 15 prospects that I will be keeping my eyes out for on during the tournament. So you're not going to miss that next week. That's going to be I think it's going to be a really good episode. If you haven't seen none of my other college content, you can go back and check out episode 5 where I'm talking about college and international. You can also go back and check out episode, I believe it is 15, is where it's a strictly like preseason college basketball episode. But yeah, so next week it's going to be a college episode. I won't be doing NBA. We'll skip next week. But with that being the case, I want to give you guys the 4 segments that I like to go over week in and week out. The first being a segment I like to call PJ's Echelon. Now, in PJ's Echelon, it's essentially my power rankings. Understand that the list is a progressive list, and I'll give you guys the parameters, what I like to use based for my power rankings. I'll give you guys that in a moment. Another segment is a segment I like to call What's New. Now, in What's New, essentially, it's me giving you guys some type of statistical history that was made last week, or it could just be me ranting, or some type of NBA news that came about over this last week. Another segment is a segment I like to call Games of the Week. Now, in Games of the Week, I'm giving you guys games of some type of significance, games that I enjoyed watching, or games that I'm looking forward to in the upcoming week. The last segment is a segment I like to call In the Lab. Now, in the Lab, essentially, it's me talking about today's NBA rookies. I'm talking about high school, or I'm talking about international basketball. Now, let's get started on today's episode with my segment. First segment on the chopping block is a segment I like to call PJ's Echelon. Now, in PJ's Echelon, it's essentially my power rankings. Just understand this is a progressive list, and this is being recorded March 8th at about 2 p.m. So whatever games happen later on today, just keep in mind they're not counted in this power rankings. So just keep that in mind as we move forward with it, okay? I want to give you guys the 4 parameters that I like to use when I based on how I kind of rank my power rankings. One thing being is the team's strength of schedule, the eye test, statistically where your team sits, but then also the team's record. Okay, I want to just dive straight into it. Let's get to it. My number 1 team this week, this team is 52-11, and that is the Oklahoma City Thunder. Oklahoma right now, they're 4th in offensive efficiency, they're 1st in defensive efficiency, and they're 1st in net rating. Since January 1st, they're tied for the best record with Cleveland at 25-6. Also, since January 1st, they're 1st in points at 124 points per game. They're allowing their opponents to average the 6th fewest points per game during that stretch as well at 111. They're also 2nd in opponents' field goal percentage during that stretch at 45%. They're a staggering 21-1 against the Eastern Conference with their lone loss coming to the Bucks during the tournament, during the NBA Cup final game. And I also want to show some love to Aaron Wiggins. Aaron Wiggins since February 1st, Aaron Wiggins, which is a 17-game sample size, is averaging 19 points on 53% shooting from the field, 46% shooting from 3, and 83% shooting from the free throw line. I think he could be somebody potentially that wins them a playoff game. So I wanted to give him some love because he's straight out balling. And I've been wanting to talk about him, but I just kind of had just been waiting a little bit to kind of bring him up to you guys. But yeah, and he's only making $9 million a year. And I think they got him under contract, I think for the next 4 to 5 years, but don't quote me on that. Number 2, this team is 53-10, and that is the Cleveland Cavaliers. Cleveland right now, they're 1st in offensive efficiency, 7th in defensive efficiency, and 2nd in net rating. They're on a 13-game winning streak, and they're hot as fish grease. It is hard for me to keep them away from being number 1, but I just like Oklahoma City a little bit better than Cleveland right now. But since the All-Star break, they're 1st in net rating, and they're at a plus 16 in net rating. They've just been frying teams. Number 3, this team is 45-18, and that is the Boston Celtics. Boston right now, they're 3rd in offensive efficiency, they're 5th in defensive efficiency, and they're 3rd in net rating. They have the 3rd easiest remaining schedule, and since January 1st, they're allowing opponents to shoot the 5th worst field goal percentage at 45%. They're 6th in opponents' three-point percentage as well at 35%. Something just to kind of throw at you guys and something to keep on your mind. Since the All-Star break, they're 15th in defensive efficiency, which obviously it's a small sample size, but still something I wanted to throw out to you guys. Number 4. This team is 40-21, and that is the Los Angeles Lakers. LA right now, they're 10th in offensive efficiency, they're 13th in defensive efficiency, and they're 13th in net rating. They have the third toughest remaining schedule left. Obviously, they play Boston in a couple hours tonight, which I'll be obviously watching that game. But also, they still have 2 games against the Thunder twice, Denver twice, and the Rockets twice. So I'm kind of happy that we're going to be able to get a chance to watch how they play against competition down the stretch instead of them cakewalking and not really having any comp to really test this team. Number 5, this team is 40-23, and that is the New York Knicks. New York right now, they're 5th in offensive efficiency, they're 16th in defensive efficiency, and they're 6th in net rating. So I didn't move them because they had no Jalen Brunson at the end of the Lakers game, and then also they didn't have him during the Clippers game. They had no Karl Towns against the Warriors, so I wanted to just keep them at 5 this week. And I think Brunson, is set to miss, 1 to 2 weeks, if I remember correctly. Don't quote me on that. But during clutch time games, and the clutch is defined as when there's 5 minutes left in the game, and it's a 5-point game, this team, New York, is 16-8 in clutch time games. They have the second best winning percentage also in the clutch, and they're first in points per game in the clutch at 12 a game. So they're 5th in also in the drive. Oh, so they average the 8th most drives per game at 23, and they have the 5th best field goal percentage when they drive the ball at 51%. The Knicks are number 5 this week for me. Number 6, this team is 41-22, and that is the Denver Nuggets. Denver right now, they're 2nd in offensive efficiency, 18th in defensive efficiency, and 5th in net rating. So at the beginning, from January 1st about the All-Star break, Denver was actually performing at like a top 6, top 7 defense. They've come somewhat slipped since the All-Star break. They're allowing the 19th most, they're about middle of the pack in points, in opponents' points per game during that stretch at 116. So the defense has slipped a little bit. But in totality on the season, they're averaging the 6th most charges per game at 26. So that's a plus. And they're averaging the 5th most points in the clutch as well during the season at 10 a game. Number 7, this team is 39-24, and that is the Memphis Grizzlies. Memphis right now, they're 6th in offensive efficiency, they're 10th in defensive efficiency, and they're 4th in net rating. Injuries have just plagued this team over the last 2 weeks, truth be told, which is kind of unfortunate. They're 3-7 in their last 10. They're 3-6 since the All-Star break. But on a positive note, they're tied for the 6th most points per game since the All-Star break at 121 points a game. I want to give a shout out to Noah LaRoche, which is one of their assistants. His offensive scheme is kind of the one that they're running. They've been running all season. They actually average the fewest pick and rolls per game. I think a lot of people don't know that about this team. But if you haven't gotten a chance to watch Memphis offense, I would highly recommend it. I've talked about this months ago, but I just wanted to bring it back to you guys' attention because they're still producing at a pretty high rate offensively, and they've been depleted by injuries, and I want to give some love to Noah LaRoche because of that. Number 8, this team is 36-25, and that is the Milwaukee Bucks. Milwaukee right now, they're 13th in offensive efficiency, 10th in defensive efficiency, and 10th in net rating. They're 7-1 since the All-Star break. And they're playing really, really good defense. They're allowing the 4th lowest field goal percentage since the break at 45%. They're 2nd in opponents' 3-point percentage as well since the break at 32.5%. They have the 5th easiest remaining schedule. Fear the deer. Here comes the Bucks. Number 9, this team is 35-26, and that is the Indiana Pacers. Indiana, they're 8th in offensive efficiency. They're 17th in defensive efficiency, and they're 15th in net rating. They had a solid win over the Rockets last week. Halliburton didn't play against the Hawks the first game. I think they play the Hawks again today. I don't know. I can't remember if he's playing or not. I don't think he's playing tonight. He might be. But they have the second best home record in the Eastern Conference at 19-9, and they're 15-12 against teams above 500. Number 10, this team is 38-25, and that is the Houston Rockets. Houston right now, they're 16th in offensive efficiency, they're 4th in defensive efficiency, and they're 7th in net rating. They're 5-5 in their last 10. I was really, really pleased and very happy to see Reed Sheppard finally getting some run. I actually talked a lot about Reed Sheppard in my pre-draft episode, my post-draft episode, my Houston Rockets season preview, and even for I believe for Rookie of the Year, I actually know how to talk about him for Rookie of the Year, but I've talked about Reed Sheppard quite a bit. Long story short, he was my favorite guard coming out of Kentucky. I liked him a little bit more than I liked Rob Dillingham personally. And I just hope that they really lean into him going into next year. Obviously, Fred VanVleet will be a free agent this summer, so we'll see what they do with him if they pick up his option. I'll be kind of surprised if they pick up his option because I think Reed Shepherd is better than him at this point. But that's another conversation for another day. But I kept them at 10 because they are 4-4 since the All-Star break, and this team is still struggling to score points. They're averaging the 21st most points per game since the break. My teams on the bubble. One being the Detroit Pistons. They're 8-2 in their last 10. Asar Thompson became the youngest player in NBA history to have a game where he had 15 points, 5 rebounds, and 5 assists with no missed shots and no turnovers. So shout out to Asar Thompson. Another team on the bubble for me is the Golden State Warriors. They are 8-2, and they're on a 3-game win streak. They play Detroit tonight. Another team on the bubble is the Minnesota Timberwolves. They're on a 4-game win streak right now, and since Julius Randle has come back from his injury, he's averaging about 7 assists a game and just seems like a little bit more comfortable in the offense, and maybe it was just him sitting on the sidelines and watching this team play. But yeah, I wanted to give a shout out to him because he's throwing out dimes, and he's being a playmaker, and he's contributing to winning right now. You guys let me know down in the comment section below what top 10 teams do you guys have, and who do you guys have on your bubble. My next segment is a segment I like to call What's New. Now, in What's New, I'm giving you guys some type of NBA statistical history that was made, some type of NBA news, or it's me ranting. Today, we're going to have a little bit of me ranting and a little bit of NBA statistical history that was made. All right, so let's just dive straight into it. I won't waste any more time. First and foremost, Walker Kessler becomes only the second player in NBA history during the blocks and steals era to have a game where he has 13 plus offensive rebounds and 8 plus block shots in a game. And the last player to do that was Moses Malone, the chairman of the boards himself, in 1983. So I want to give a big shout out to Walker Kessler. But also while I have a chance, I want to give a shout out to the Utah Jazz organization for their drafting. They have drafted, at least in my opinion, they've drafted pretty well, and I really like their young core. I'm a big Keyshawn George fan. I love Keyshawn George. He's one of my favorite young shooting guards. But also, I really like that they drafted Cody Williams. I think Bryce Sansaban has the potential to be a future 6 Man of the Year candidate. I really like also somebody that obviously got hurt earlier in the season. Or was it during the preseason? Either earlier in the season, during the preseason. But I really like Taylor Hendricks as well. I think he's somebody that obviously he'll be back next year. I think that's somebody that's going to be really good for this team. I really like him a lot. I think he has the potentials to be a very, very solid 3-and-D player. Also, Isaiah Colliner, I think, has the chance potentially to be their future starting point guard as well. But yeah, I just want to give some love to the Utah Jazz organization for their drafting because I feel like they've done a really, really good job drafting up to this point. In the last 2 drafts. And so I want to give some love to them. And also Filipowski coming off the bench, being a big man coming off the bench, I think as well moving forward could be something that Utah leans on. Obviously, in the long game, they really want AJ DeBonsis. I don't think that's by any surprise, you know what I'm saying? But that's another conversation for another day. I just want to give some love to them, okay? Another team I want to show some love to, another young core team, is the Washington Wizards, man. I love Alex Sarr, Bilal Coulibaly, Keyshawn George, and then Bud Carrington. I like what they've done too thus far. Obviously, I think this team really is going to have a chance to really be a really good defensive team in the years to come. Offensively, hopefully this draft, they're able to get their offensive engine, who they're going to run their offense through. If that's Ace Bailey, if that's Cooper Flagg, if that's Dylan Harper. Whatever one of the 3 they get, if they get one of those 3, who knows, maybe they won't, or maybe Trey Johnson, whoever they decide to get. Obviously, this team needs more offense, but I really like the little defensive core that they're building with those players, and I just want to give some love to them too. But also, I also want to talk to you guys about, I think it's no surprise. I think we've all kind of seen it already. This new CBA for the NBA, it's going to make things very interesting moving forward because a lot of teams are going to be reluctant to give these players, north of over $300 million contracts, almost $400 million contracts. So I think in the future we could see a lot more like superstar movement based on teams not wanting to pay players that kind of money. And I don't blame them, some of these players, are not showing up to work. Some of them are underperforming and still got their hand out asking for $300 to $400 million. You know what I'm saying? Obviously, I think Luka deserved it, no doubt. You know what I'm saying? I seen something that said Dallas wasn't willing to give him the money, but you know what I'm saying? Like, moving forward, the NBA teams and owners are going to be very reluctant to give superstars that kind of money. So we could see movement unlike we've ever seen, you know? So that's something I kind of just wanted to just bring up to you guys again. But also I want to talk to you guys a little bit about just some free agents to keep your eyes out on over the next year or two. One being Miles Turner this summer. He'll be a free agent. Dame got a player option after next season. I'm getting ready to talk to you guys a little bit more about the Bucks in the second year. So that's something to be mindful of. Bobby Portis has a player option this summer. He's probably going to option out. Brook Lopez is a free agent this summer. He's probably out of there. CJ McCollum, after next season, will be a free agent, so he might be a player that's on the move this summer or before the trade deadline next year. Bruce Brown is a free agent this summer. DeAndre Ayton and Anthony Simons will be free agents after next year. So those are players that potentially could be on the move if Portland doesn't want to extend them. I would honestly, I'm gonna be real with you guys. I'll be shocked if they decide to extend Anthony Simons. I would be shocked. I'm not gonna lie to you guys about that one. John Collins has a player option this summer. Be interested to see if he picks it up or doesn't. But also, and obviously there's more players. And all these players that I just named, if you guys haven't gotten a chance or you haven't gotten a chance to check out any of my preseason team season previews, you would have heard me talk about all these players during last summer. But if you haven't, that's why also I wanted to just kind of just refresh you guys and let you guys know these players are contract situations, are something that's coming about, you know. So that's also why I wanted to bring that up to you guys. But I do want to take a moment and talk a little bit more about the Milwaukee Bucks a little bit, and specific Giannis. So obviously, we all know Giannis is on the clock in Milwaukee. Depending, obviously, what they do this playoff run. And I think they have a 2-year window. I think this year and the next year, I think they're going to let him and Dame try to, figure it out over the next 2 years is what I'm assuming. So I say that to say this. I've been thinking about this for a while now. But I believe the team that's at the forefront of getting Giannis, like at the very, very top, I think it is the Brooklyn Nets. And I think it's Brooklyn for a number of reasons. But let's talk about the teams who I don't have at the top, who obviously some of you guys may be like, oh, what about that team? I think the Thunder are content with their team. I think Houston, as of right now, I think Houston's dead set on trying to get Devin Booker or Kevin Durant. I think Utah is set on trying to get AJ DeBontis. I don't think they're interested. And then the Spurs is an interesting one. The Spurs is a very interesting one, so I'm not going to rule out San Antonio. A Victor and Giannis pairing, I would love to see that. I'll sign me up for that. Okay, but I think Brooklyn's at the top. And I think Brooklyn's at the top because, first and foremost, they have 4 first-round picks in this draft, which doesn't have nothing to do with Giannis, but it could position them to draft, maybe X amount of young players that they may think Milwaukee may be interested in the next year or two. But also, they're going to get a top 5 pick in this draft. So 3 of their picks will be later on in the draft, but they're going to have a top 5 pick this year. Probably next year as well, they'll probably have another top 5 pick. But then also, they still can offer 6 to 7 first-round picks to Milwaukee and still have about 4 to 5 left. And they can give Milwaukee Cam Thomas as well. And something also to keep in mind is that the Milwaukee Bucks don't own any of their picks between 2025 and 2030. From 25 to 27, it goes to the Pelicans. From 28 to 30, it goes to the Trailblazers. Portland, I don't think the Trailblazers are interested in Giannis. I don't think so. I mean, they may be, who knows? I don't think they are, but who knows? Is New Orleans interested in Giannis? Probably not either, but who knows? But I just think Brooklyn's in prime position to capitalize and to get Giannis, And I'm only bringing this up today and right now because obviously the red button has not been pushed yet in Milwaukee, and I like to talk about things before that button is pushed. All right, so that's why I'm bringing it up to you guys now. I do think Brooklyn's at the forefront, and I think Giannis loves New York. And the Knicks, for some goofy reason, decided to offer the brick truck for Mikal Bridges, which I didn't agree with it when it happened. I still don't agree with it because they probably could have been in a prime position to get Giannis too. But I think Brooklyn is positioning themselves to go get Giannis, is what I'm telling you guys. In the grand scheme of things, I think every move that the Brooklyn Nets have been making and they will be making moving forward, I think is to position themselves to entice and to get Giannis to Brooklyn. Imagine Giannis in Brooklyn with whatever top 5 pick they get in this draft. Let's say they get like Trey Johnson in this draft. Okay, I'm just saying a play. Let's say they get Trey Johnson or VJ Edgecombs, or let's say they get Cooper or Ace or whatever. Okay, let's say they get one of those top 5 kids, right? And then next year they get a top 1 or top 2 pick next year, and they get Darren Peterson. Darren Peterson with Giannis, with one of those other 5 kids in this draft, and you still got 5 picks that you can go out and trade for another superstar to play with Giannis, because those young kids ain't going to need to be paid. I think the Brooklyn Nets are really setting themselves up for that Giannis sweepstakes and to cash in their chips for that. And I just wanted to bring that out to you guys because it's been on my mind, and I just wanted to say it. But another team I want to talk about that I think is getting ready to push some chips forward this summer is the Orlando Magic. Orlando, obviously, for the last 2 years have struggled offensively. Last year, they were bottom 7 in offense. This year, they're bottom 3 in offense. And before you guys say, oh, but they've had injuries, you can go back and look at the numbers. Before even they had injuries, they were I believe they were a bottom 6, bottom 7 offense again this year. Even before the injuries happened, they were at the bottom in offense. And that's no knock to the players that they have, but this team just needs more offense. Some players that I wanted to kind of talk about with you guys very briefly when it comes to Orlando. I think one obviously has been swirling around is that LaMelo may be up for auction for the Hornets, depending on what happens with the Hornets. Really, I think I can see LaMelo being shopped, truth be told. If they get the number 1 pick, I think LaMelo's out of there, to be honest. I think they'll take pair Cooper Flag with Brandon Miller. Probably, we'll see what they do with Mark Williams. But LaMelo I could see Orlando trying to get LaMelo. I could see them trying to get Trae Young. On the cheaper end, which may be better routes potentially if you don't want to go all in on LaMelo or Trae, is Anthony Simons of Portland, or even, I haven't seen nobody say this player, Colin Sexton of the Utah Jazz might be somebody you can get for, a very cheaper price. Because LaMelo's going to cost you a lot. I don't think Trae Young will cost you as much. I think LaMelo obviously is going to cost the most out of all these players. But those are just the players that I think I could see on this team and players that this team really could use. You guys let me know down in the comment section below what was new for you guys over this last week. Again, I'm sorry for ranting about something that may not even be, relevant to today. But it's something that was on my mind, and I feel like it's my duty to come on here and to just be very authentic with you guys about what's on my mind. And the whole Brooklyn thing has been on my mind, and I just wanted to spill that to you guys. And also some of those young teams that I spoke on earlier as well. This has just been on my mind. But yeah, so you guys let me know down in the comment section below what you're thinking. My next segment is a segment I like to call Games of the Week. Now, in Games of the Week, I'm giving you guys game of some type of significance, games that I really enjoyed watching, and also games that I'm looking forward to this week. First, we're going to start off with a game that I just really enjoyed watching, and then I'll give you guys games for this upcoming week that I'm looking forward to watching this week, okay? So the game that I'm going to talk about today, it's going to be the Boston Celtics versus the Portland Trailblazers. Boston won this game 128-118. And you guys are wondering probably why am I covering this game? Or you guys may already know. It was an avalanche of 3-point shooting by Derek White and Peyton Pritchard. And I just have to cover this because Boston, full disclosure, I grew up a Boston fan. My dad's a Celtics fan, and I just grew up, being a Celtics fan. I'm not a Celtics fan today. I'm not a fan of no NBA team today just because I've always been somebody, I want to be able to give objective opinions and not subjective, I want to lead with actual, facts-based opinions and not emotional-based opinions, so I just felt like I just need to separate myself from NBA teams. But I'm choosing this one because they did something that no Celtic duo has ever done, and that was drop 40 points in the same game, and that's amazing. That's amazing. When you think about who's walked through the Garden at Boston, obviously Larry Bird, who's my favorite player of all time. You got JoJo White, KJ, you got Jones. I forgot his first name. I think it was Casey Jones. You got Casey Jones. You got Bob Cousy. You got John Havlicek. Obviously, Russell wasn't an offensive player, But then you got, Paul Pierce, Kevin Garnett, Ray Allen. Like, it's just Tatum, Brown. Like, it's insane to think about that all these greats have walked through the garden and have never done that. Kevin McHale, Robert Parrish. Like, it just blew my mind. When I seen that stat, I was like, whoa. But that doesn't take away from this game. They combined for 84 points in this game, 19 3-pointers. They're the first teammates to record 9+ threes in the same game. Peyton Pritchard joins only Damian Lillard and James Harden as the only players to drop 40 points, 10 rebounds, 5 assists, and 10 threes in a game. And he's the only player off the bench to do it. And he did it against his hometown team. If you guys didn't know, Peyton Pritchard, he's not from Portland. He's from West Lynn, which is just a little south of Portland. It's like a suburban area. But yeah, Peyton Pritchard, he was great. I live in the state of Oregon. Peyton Pritchard, he was dominant in high school. I think he won 4 straight state titles, either 4 in a row or 3 straight. But yeah, Peyton Pritchard, he was cold. He was cold in high school. But anyways, throughout this game, they just again was just lighting it up, man. Peyton Pritchard in the first quarter had 4 threes. In the second, he had 1. The third, he had 5. He went on a scoring tear in the third, man, and in the first. And then Derek White had 2 in the first. And then he hit 3 straight threes in the second. And then he had 4 total for the second. And then he had 2 in the fourth. These dudes, like I said, they were just going avalanche. Portland tried to battle back in the fourth. They ended up leading the scoring in the quarter. They scored 30. It was 36-26 in the fourth quarter, but it just wasn't enough, man. Boston was just pouring it on them. I really want to give some love because Shaedon Sharpe had a really good game, and he's been having a pretty solid season in my opinion. Really since the second half of the season. I know Chauncey has been really, really hard on him. But I remember they had a conversation a couple weeks back after a game where Chauncey was kind of, he was kind of getting on Shaedon in the press and was kind of talking him down a little bit in the press about his lack of effort and stuff. Ever since then, he's been hooping. But during this game, Shaedon had 25 points. He had 6 rebounds, 1 steal. He shot 11 of 18 from the field. On the season, he's improved. Shaedon's up to 18 points, 4 rebounds, 3 assists, 1 steal, 2 turnovers, shooting 45% from the field. He's shooting 55% on twos. He's averaging 8 attempts. He's shooting 80% from the free throw line on 3 attempts. Give this man the keys, please, Joe Cronin, for the love of me. Give this man the keys. That's why I think Anthony Simons is not getting extended. That's why I said I would be shocked if he is extended. Because him and Scoot need to just be starting, okay? I love Shaedon Sharpe. I've been a big fan of Shaedon Sharpe before he was even drafted. I have a couple of my best friends. They'll tell you guys, like, I have been a Shaedon Sharpe guy before he was even drafted. But yeah, anyways, I wanted to give him some love because he's been playing very well on the season, but even, like I said, really in the second half of the year, after he had that conversation with Chauncey, he's really stepped up. I just love this man. I love this dude. He's they call him the Cobra, is his nickname, is what they call him here in Portland. They call him the Cobra, but yeah, I just want to give him some love, man, because I enjoy watching him play, bro. He's so smooth to me, so smooth. But I want to let you guys know what games I am looking forward to this week. Tonight, a couple games I'm looking forward to. One being Detroit versus Golden State. The Lakers versus the Celtics tonight. Orlando play the Bucks. I think that's tonight as well. Don't quote me on that. Thunder and Denver play Sunday and Monday, so I'll be looking forward to those games. As well on Sunday, we got Cleveland versus the Bucks. We got the Pistons versus the Blazers. I'll be at that game. Kings versus Clippers on Sunday. Magic versus Rockets on Monday. Suns versus Grizzlies on Monday. Pacers versus Bucks on Tuesday. We got Thunder versus Celtics on Wednesday. Suns versus Rockets on Wednesday. Clippers versus Heat on Wednesday. Timberwolves versus Denver on Wednesday. Lakers versus Bucks on Thursday. Cavs versus Grizzlies on Friday. Magic versus Timberwolves on Friday. Lakers versus Denver on Friday. Jazz versus Raptors on Friday. I'm hoping both teams are healthy. I know right now the Raptors have a ton of players out, so I'm hoping that they're healthy so I can watch 2 young teams kind of go at back and forth. That's why I have this game on my slate. Thunders versus Pistons next Saturday, and then Pacers versus Bucks next Saturday. You guys let me know down in the comment section below what games did you guys really enjoy this last week, and what games are you guys looking forward to in the week upcoming. My last segment is a segment I like to call In the Lab. Now, in the lab, I'm talking about today's NBA rookies. I'm talking about college. I'm talking about international, or I'm talking about high school. So we're just going to get straight into it, all right? So on the first chopping block, kind of some big news. Head coach of Montverde, Kevin Boyle, is going to be leaving Montverde to go coach at Spear Academy in Ohio. So that's kind of some big news. He's going to be a Hall of Famer. He won 8 national titles at Montverde, and he's coached the likes of D'Angelo Russell, Ben Simmons, Joel Embiid, Cade Cunningham, Scotty Barnes, and Cooper Flagg, and more. So I just want to say that because that was some big high school news. So I just had to put that out there to you guys. Also, my guy Darren Peterson, he ended up winning National Player of the Year. No surprise. Arguably the best player in high school basketball. There's an argument that can be made there. I'm not going to be the one to talk more about that right now, but there's an argument to be made. He's the best player in high school basketball. Also, the Nike Hoop Summit rosters were released. The USA versus the World takes place. I believe it's in April, I think is when it takes place. I know it takes place here in Portland. I'll probably try to get to that game and watch some of these prospects. I've gone a couple times over the years, but I want to let you guys know, I'll leave up in the corner the full rosters, but I want to just give you guys some of the guys that are on some of the teams. We'll talk about the world team first. Some of the guys that's on the world team is Akina Alozie. I've talked about him actually during last summer. I talked about him because he was at some of the camps, and I believe he won MVP at a couple camps as well. Kyan Anthony is another player, which is Carmelo's son. Tajay Ariza, which is Trevor Ariza's son. I talked about him last summer as well. Dash Daniels, which is Dyson Daniels' little brother. He'll be playing for Team World. Dame Sarr is another player that I don't think I've talked about Dame Sarr on here quite yet, but I've been keeping up with him personally. I just haven't brought him to you guys' attention yet. And then the last player from the Team World is Tundi. I can't pronounce his last name. I'm not going to try to. Like I said, I'll leave the full roster right up in the corner for you guys to look at. But he's going to Baylor, if I remember correctly. He's a highly rated kid. He's going to be at Baylor. Now, on Team USA, just some of the people, again, I'll leave the full roster right up in the corner for you guys. But the Boozer twins, Koa Pete, Jasper Johnson, Chris Senick, Darius Aguff, and Mikael Brown Jr. are all going to be on the team. Obviously, there's more players that's going to be on the team. Like I said, I'll leave it up in the corner for you guys. But also, I just want to mention to you guys, keep in mind that next week, we will be talking about strictly college basketball. My March Madness episode's coming out next week. I can't wait. I'll be recording it and uploading it after the bracket's released, who's making the field, who's not. I'll be giving you guys my full bracket, who I think is going to win, and my full, like I said, each round by round, we'll go over that. Also, I'm going to give you guys 10 to 15 prospects that I'll just be keeping my eyes out for during the tournament as well, okay? Also, I want to thank you guys for continuously checking out my podcast. Again, I'm your host, PJ, and PJ is out.